Okay, I'm gonna just kind of familiarize you with the veterans interviews that are on the YouTube channel, which Mrs. Julian created. In the links below, I will give you a link to that YouTube page so that you can go back to it when you need to, and also a link to the online interview information form that we've created. What we're wanting you to do is to watch the video and then fill out the form. Now, there are two ways to do this. You can either try to fill out the form as you go, um, or you can just take notes as you watch the video and then fill out the form. I actually think for a person who only does this once or twice, that the latter might be more efficient than doing the former. In other words, taking notes and then filling out the form might work better for you. But we'll leave that up to you. I do want to familiarize you with the form. So you want to put your name and your affiliation in here. If you do not want to be recognized by the Riley County Historical Society and the Library of Congress as the volunteer who helped make this video publicly available, then you might want to put anonymous next to your name. But for most of you, you probably want to get that recognition, and it's something that you should be proud of. And then another thing you can fill in right away is the veteran's name. I've got Calvin Beck's up here on the screen, so I will put in his name. He actually served in, it sounds to me, I've listened to this once before, and sometimes it's kind of hard to tell, like, what is the main military branch. I'm going to have to add National Guard because that's what I think he started out in, or at least he ended up in the National Guard. And so I'll have to add that there. But you would check off which one of the services, and you get that information usually towards the beginning of the interview. They will tell you all of that very basic information. Now, you have to listen to the entire thing to answer this question. Area or areas in which the veterans served. Oftentimes they went to more than one area. So they can be quite important. So they might have, like, he ended up being in the Pearl Harbor area at the time of the attack on Pearl Harbor, but he went several other places as well. So to the best of your ability, you'd want to list the areas of the world in which the veterans served here. And then this is very important. This will go on to the YouTube channel, and it will also go on the Historical Society website and the Library of Congress's website. This is the description of the video. It's about a one-paragraph description. Don't make it too terribly long. You'll want to put all of the basic information that you can because that will help a person decide whether they want to watch it. And then you can add, in addition to date and location of the interview, which shows you right away, the date and the name of the person, his branch of military, a little bit about him, him or her, I should say, and then where and when they served, and anything else that you find particularly relevant, you can put here. Anything that you would like to know when considering whether to watch it. We also want you to list minute marks, and you don't have to be like super meticulous about this, but typically you might have 15 to 20 of these minute marks where the veteran has mentioned either he's segueing to some new topic, like he goes from his schooling to his enlistment or his drafting into the military, and then he goes to discussing a battle or a new location. You might want to add a minute mark for that to tell a person where in the video he'd need to go to get there. And the reason why is because, particularly for researchers using the Library of Congress system, an expert might want to just deal with say the Battle of Pearl Harbor, and wants to get like 500 veterans' perspectives for an oral history on the ground in Pearl Harbor. This way he can go to the specific spots in the video where that battle is mentioned, and he's able to do a whole lot more than if he had to watch the entire each of the entire videos. So it's very important for research. And down here, this is important for research for people using YouTube as well. So here you'd put, I mean, some of these will be standard. They exist in the background on YouTube and help people search. So they won't be seen necessarily, but they're important for people to find it. So you want to put World War II, the guy's name, Calvin Beck, whatever branch of service. I would put veterans, oral history. Some of these are standard like this, and then some will be particular to this interview. All right, so I'm just going to listen to a little bit of this just to give you a feel, but I won't go too far. Each of you will have to figure out for yourselves exactly how to do this best, whether to take notes, but I guess I'm recommending taking notes. Having tried the other, I would just know what's on this form, take notes, and then fill out the form right after you watch the video. All right, here's what the beginning of these videos is generally going to be like.
Today I will interview Calvin Beck, a veteran of World War II. This interview is a part of the Veterans Oral History Project. The interview is being conducted in the WWII County Office Building, located at 115 North 4th Street in Manhattan, Kansas. Veteran of World War II. This interview is a part of the Veterans Oral History Project. The interview is being conducted in the WWII County Office Building, located at 115 North 4th Street in Manhattan, Kansas. The camera operator for the recording is Dana Doddridge. Today's date is 7 October 2003. Calvin, for the record, will you give us again your name, rank, serial number if you remember it, and your branch of service?
Well, I'll have to give you the rank I last had was a National Guard rank. It was a second lieutenant and released the next.
I'm going to put that information in this paragraph for now. If you can't figure out exactly all the like for instance, this person went from, I had a hard time figuring out whether he started in the National Guard or not. Do the best you can, but if it's unclear what service he served in or whether he switched from one to the other, or in the case of a female, did she work in one position or another? Some of them did, and sometimes it's not extremely clear. Just know that these are notes. You could always put a question mark. A question mark would make the person at the Riley County Historical Society take a look and see if there's any documentation that they can add to make it clear if some of this information is not clear from the video. They do have some biographical information written down there.
Guard, and just prior to the Korean conflict. And I missed that boat ride about 23 days. I transferred from state to state to fulfill my National Guard obligation. But when I entered the service, prior to World War II, in the third day of January 1940, and I enlisted for what was called then foreign service, which is Hawaii being a territory. It was considered foreign service. So that was my first entry, and where I served.
I think he started in the National Guard.
About the longest period of time at any one time was in until after December 7th and 41. I was mostly involved with training personnel and, as we call it.
I'm going to put a minute mark at the beginning that just is. Let's see. Now, a lot of times, now he launched right into his military stuff, but a lot of times veterans are asked questions about their childhood and their youth and their education first, and all of that could be lumped into biographical introduction or something like that. And then when they get into the military service, you would then make a minute mark for when they start up on that, and then more minute marks for when they segue from one topic to another.
In later days, we called it a DEI. We was a drill instructor for quite a while, training troops that came from the various islands in Hawaii. Especially after they started the year of mandatory service that they had. If you probably would recall, that was what happened to get the personnel involved and get them trained. This happened during the year of 41. And that's where I was utilized for a training instructor until the war broke out, when I rejoined my own outfit, which is in the 21st Infantry. And they gathered up personnel that was the key personnel in the cadre, to make a cadre to return to the United States after our experience with Pearl Harbor and all this was probably geared down and slowed down to where we could make some sense out of everything.
Yeah, let me break in. Were you in Hawaii during Pearl Harbor?
Yes.
Okay, now that's significant. Pearl Harbor. All right, and so I'm going to make a minute mark there at 250. I would say start at 250 to give the person a chance to hear it. 250. Because he was in Hawaii. And so the interviewer has just asked, were you in Pearl Harbor when it was attacked? All right, so I made a note of that.
Were you at Schofield Barracks? No, it happened to be at Hickam Field. We was training at that time. It was called the Air Corps. The Air Force, which is now the Air Force.
See, now I have to listen. This is the third time I've listened to this introductory part, and I finally get that he was in the National Guard the entire time, and he was doing training. He remained in the United States, even though he says foreign service, because Hawaii is not contiguous. It felt like it was, like he was coming back to the States at one point. He said he came back to the States. But anyway, so he was in the National Guard. He was in Hawaii doing training for troops, as I gather, when the attack on Pearl Harbor happened. And so, see, this is the type of stuff that you're more likely to get the first time around if you're just taking notes by hand, and then you can sort out what's important later.
And we were giving basic training to the Air Corps assignees, or I would say the ones that came over to fulfill their obligations when they came in.
All right, so I'd say that's important enough to put in the paragraph. Okay, so okay. I think I'm going to stop there. I think you get the idea. Now, very importantly, when you fill out this form, I'm going to pretend that this is National Guard, okay, and I'm going to add that. But anyway, when you get done, remember you've got to submit the form, okay? So click submit, and what happens with that information, you know that you've had it work when it says your response has been recorded. That goes to a spreadsheet that people at the Riley County Historical Society can use to derive this information and get it put properly on their own website. All right, so thank you very much, and I hope that you consider doing one of these videos. It takes time, but it's well worth it.